Welcome to Mindflow Radio.
Mindflow Radio.
She's Jaylyn.
And he's Monty.
So buckle your seatbelts and get ready to take a trip towards reality.
I don't wanna.
It's not easy all the time.
Yeah, it's true. It takes a lot of effort and coming back to center.
Well, and just like exploring new ideas and new philosophies, and
being open.
it can be challenging, certainly. Yeah. And for this podcast, we're thinking about talking about the philosophy of benevolence.
What's benevolence?
Yeah, and what's philosophy, right?
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Well, I would say benevolence is a feeling of wishing well for others. Like if I'm benevolent towards you, Jay, which I am, I'm like, oh, I hope Jay does well in her life, and I hope she's happy and healthy and learns from her mistakes and, keeps progressing.
Okay.
That's benevolence. With the opposite side of benevolence is malevolence. But I've been recently exploring the idea of developing benevolence as an overall philosophy in my life. And what does that mean? It means that I'm trying to be benevolent towards all beings. So everyone and everything, including myself, of course.
Good.
Yeah. And I'm exploring what that's like and what it takes to do that. And I'm working on different skills and different practices that help enforce that philosophy.
What are you finding?
I'm finding it's highly interesting. It's a great experiment. I'm loving the results.
Nice.
I'm finding how it's more challenging than, it's a challenging philosophy to really hold to, but in a way it's easy. And I just want to mention the idea of having a philosophy. Whether if we don't choose our philosophy is kind of chosen for us. It's like what's if I don't choose a philosophy, then I just go back to status quo philosophies.
Which would you agree is a subconscious mind? Is that the status quo? Like what's buried underneath and you...
Well, I mean, developing a philosophy is you implant like beliefs into your subconscious mind, and then it becomes your philosophy, right? If we don't actively choose our philosophy is chosen for us because we'll just have like status quo beliefs in our subconscious mind, and that'll determine our philosophy. So whether we know it or not, we have a philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a good idea to choose the philosophy, and I have been exploring the philosophy of benevolence recently. And it's been a wild ride for me. It really made me look at like people that I did not hold in a benevolent light. I really began to examine people, like some folks on the internet whom I just don't like what they're posting, or I think they're faking it, or whatever it is. But then I started looking at that, and it's like, why would I feel malevolent towards them? And malevolent, I'd be like, oh, I hope they fail. I hope blah, blah, blah. They get served, whatever. That's like a malevolent thought. And then so I started examining it through the light of benevolence. And then the question is, what is my problem? Why would I wish poorly on them? Why would I wish them to suffer? That's just like, it's ridiculous. Because, I mean, whether I wish them to suffer or not, I'm not going to change their outcome, because we all create our own karma.
The boomerang too.
Well, we all create our own. Yeah, that's right. We all create our own karma. And part of my karma is the energy I put out into the world gets reflected back at me. And if I have a bunch of malevolent thoughts, if that's what's the energy that I'm hooking into, the collective unconscious that I'm hooking into, then that energy is going to come back at me. So it's just going to harm myself, number one, if I'm malevolent, I believe. And number two, it's not going to make a difference for those people. I mean, that if I don't like what they're doing, and I can at least, so I've been turning it around. And so now instead of being irritated and wanting them to fail, it's more a feeling of, well, I hope they learn their lesson. I hope they don't create too much bad karma for themselves. I hope they can turn it around and begin, moving more towards creating good karma for themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's been a wild ride, because in a sense, when I think about other people, instead of judging them, I kind of just discern my own reaction towards them.
Nice.
And then that in turn empowers me to change my reaction if I want to.
Yeah, I'm sure that takes a little bit of a deep dive into your own subconscious. And
well, it does. It does.
Interesting beliefs that are contradicting your desired beliefs.
Why do these people irritate me? That's one question, And according to Carl Jung, people irritate us who, at least some of the time, they remind us of ourselves.
Yeah. That's been my experience mainly.
So there's that, right? And but an exercise that I've been thinking about, and we've worked with this in the past, is for those who are interested in trying to develop the philosophy of benevolence, or at least want to try it on. Now, that's one thing I should mention, that to explore what it's like to have a different belief. To explore that is, it takes courage, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to face up to our cognitive dissonance, which ultimately tells us to stop, and cognitive dissonance makes us uncomfortable. So if I try and have a thought that's against one of my deep-seated beliefs, then I have some cognitive dissonance, and that's a feeling of discomfort. And a lot of people at that point is like, forget it. I'm not going any farther. But if you push through it, and really try on a belief, it's like a belief is almost like a plug that you can plug into your subconscious and really see what it's like. And then if you don't like it, you unplug it.
Yeah.
But if you never plug it in, you never know.
Right.
And most people, or a lot of people, would be like, I'm not going to plug that in because it's, it's dumb, or it's whatever.
Scary.
It's scary. Well, that's the truth of it. But they won't admit they're scared.
Right.
Typically.
Well, it takes a level of curiosity to even want to plug in a plug where you're scared, or, and sometimes you have to discern that maybe you really just shouldn't plug in that plug too.
Well, yeah. I mean, sure. Absolutely. I mean, because one plug would be like everybody's evil, and and I don't want to plug that in,
right?
Because I think I know the answer,
right?
That's just a unproductive belief, and I want to fill my subconscious with productive beliefs so I can thrive, and
so you can vet the desired chance of, or possibility of, this thought being a good belief to try on.
Yeah, right. Well, when I look at the belief, I'm like, okay, that does not seem like a shadow belief to me. Or this does seem, if it seems like a shadow. I should mention there are typically there's 3 levels of consciousness, 3 frequencies that we can tap into. The lowest being the shadow frequency, middle being neutral, the highest being the flow frequency. It seems like benevolence for all can help me achieve either neutrality or flow. Yeah, and it keeps me out of the shadow, I believe. And I should mention too that one technique that helps me achieve the benevolence for all is just viewing everybody as like spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. If I can view everybody that way, then I'm like, okay, we're all spiritual beings. That's great, but we're all confused too. So that's why we act like in messed up ways.
Right. And like you're saying, the status quo belief system, subconscious that we developed in our childhood and whatever was going on, that is the confusion base that we come from.
Well, right. Yeah, we were not raised in an enlightened society.
No, not at all.
And the TVs that we set up, that I grew up watching, were not feeding my mind with enlightened information. And now Facebook is the same, it's just, or the media, but if so I choose to not take on those beliefs, but take on the beliefs that I think are going to really help me. And help my culture and help my family and help all of humanity. Yeah. Let's face it. If we were more benevolent, if humankind was more benevolent, what would that look like? It's like, well, we'd all get along. There probably wouldn't be any wars, etc. And a lot of people might argue, well, they'll flash back to like 1940 Germany. They'll be like, well, we needed to hate Hitler, otherwise he would have just conquered the world. But that's not true at all from the perspective of, if the German people were more benevolent, they never would have bought Hitler's philosophy of like the Germans were the superhuman race, and the Polish people and the Russians were subhumans, and we had to take their land from them because they had to be our servants. And that's not a benevolent philosophy. So if people in Germany would have been more benevolent towards Hitler and towards just have that philosophy of benevolence, they would have been like, oh, well, I hope Hitler can like transform his beliefs and align his mind more with things that'll help him, progress. And then also, I'm not going to follow him because his beliefs are so contrary to reality. And reality is that, I'm trying to be benevolent to everybody, including the Russians,
I'd like to say that I feel that time in history and humanity was also just a different time of evolution. And we probably had to go through that because we went through that. Not to say we should do it again. Right. But I feel that now we are at a place where benevolence is something that can be practiced and can be chosen. And for those of us who live in a peaceful day-to-day, for the most part, have the opportunity to choose benevolence. And I know that it's a virtue that I work on too. Definitely not as focused or successful at it, but I do try to think about it from the angle that I learned with White Tiger Qigong, and that is that you make decisions for the betterment of all. And so, when I try to think about, should I have road rage right now? I can be like, no, that's just going to cause other people upset and pass on the road rage. And why would I do that right now when I could just chill? I'm not, I left on time. I gave myself a couple minutes. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
And what's one way, intellectually, what can you say to like reduce the road rage?
I'm okay right now.
Or about the other driver who just cut you off or something?
Just really try not to have an opinion. That's kind of how
or they made a mistake, and we all make mistakes.
I like that. Yeah,
they made
I guess I didn't. I have not done that. I will have to try that. But
or maybe they're in a hurry, or maybe they're distracted, or
Yeah, generally, I feel like there's days I've really healed my road rage so much, and I drive a lot for my day-to-day job. And so I have had to face, why do I have road rage? And part of it is the way I was raised. I mean, it is the status quo of my family. My dad was a race car driver, and, so he had a little road rage, and still does. And I just kind of learned that. Like, he's the one that taught me how to drive too, So I kind of had that as my foundation, and so healing that is a big part of getting to those status quo beliefs, and really just trying to be like, if somebody is driving 45 and a 55, I just have to be okay.
Yeah, right. I mean,
it's okay. Like, he has a right, or he, she, whoever is driving that car has the right to go 45. And if there is an opening, I will take it. And if there's not, it's okay. Yeah. I'm okay.
Well, you think of it like radical acceptance just plays a role too. I accept this situation. I'm not happy about it necessarily, but I'm not going to be malevolent towards that person and drive past them and like, flip them off or.
Oh yeah, I don't do that. Even when I do have road rage. But I also want to add in another perspective, which I think is very interesting, because my first experience of hearing about benevolent and malevolent was in astrology, actually. And there's benevolent planets and malevolent planets. So I think that's very interesting, and this is really in regards to ancient astrology. And the benevolent planets was Jupiter and Venus, and those are the two that come to mind right away. And the malevolent planets being Mars and Saturn. And I just think that's so interesting that in the ancient astrology, the benevolent planets give grace, love, beauty, expansive abundance, and the malevolent planets cause chaos, bring in challenges and difficulties and impulsivity and harshness. And when you look at it like that, and that was, of course, the first lens that I was playing with, benevolent, malevolent energy, and to use that lens and say, wow, how can I connect with the benevolent side of things, and also be willing to notice that impulsivity as a malevolent indication, that I'm aligning with something malevolent when I'm being impulsive, and that kind of goes to road rage, or it can go to buying something on the internet in 2 seconds without thinking twice, and that impulsivity, will it bring regret? Will it bring remorse? Will you want to return it? Will you wish you didn't do it? So there's just all these ways that we can weigh things with the idea of benevolent and malevolent. And I also want to say that I think it was good that you brought in neutrality, because I feel like if benevolence can't be reached, then maybe neutrality can.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. And I mean, because if, let's say, I'm caught up in some kind of abusive relationship, for example, it might be super difficult for me to feel like benevolent towards the other person, but I mean, I can intellectually say to myself, I hope this other person can change. I hope this other person can stop creating bad karma for themselves. And then removing myself from the situation. Yeah. Ideally, not taking it out of a place of benevolence, because I need to be benevolent towards myself, which means removing myself from an abusive situation, but not wishing like death and destruction onto the the abuser.
I think
that's a big deal, actually.
Yeah, I think that the subject of abusive relationships is huge because it's really hard. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, where if you're in that peaceful place, if you have a peaceful day to day, then playing around with benevolence is an option. Whereas if you're in a domestic abuse situation, it may be a little more difficult to even discern up from down, or
well, I don't know. I think it's maybe even more important in a position like that, because you want to apply it to yourself.
It is more important
to be benevolent towards yourself initially.
And even having that indication of, wait a minute, what is benevolence? Like if you're hearing this and you're in that kind of a situation, the idea of benevolence can be that cognitive dissonance that can help you get somewhere safe, and I feel like, having been in that situation before, it takes a level of time and getting the courage and the support.
There's so many variables for every.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to act now.
Yeah, you have to get yourself safe now.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and
it's not. It's there, but it's important to realize too, when it comes to abusive relationships, then the number one relationship we need to work with is our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I believe in our culture, we've kind of been trained to be malevolent towards ourselves with our negative self-talk, berating ourselves. Mm-hmm. You're not enough, whatever. How could you have made that mistake? How could you be so stupid? All that kind of self-talk, and really that's abusive to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And if we're really hooked into trying to be benevolent, that's when we start with more the encouraging self-talk. Yeah. You got this, bro. You can do this. I know you made a mistake, but you can learn from that mistake and be wiser. And you got this, bro. Talking to yourself like you're talking to a good friend.
Yeah. And I like to see that side of me that is hurt as a little girl, that I then scoop her up and give her a nice nurturing hug and just try to be with her. And that's been how I've worked with benevolence, to kind of shift out of my challenges with my own mental health, and working with this inner child and trying to give her the love she needed and needs so that I can be benevolent. And I know that this will be my final thought, but it's a saying that we've probably all heard before, but trying to not judge people because you have no idea what they're going through. And I think that right there is a really nice, benevolent act. And going back to someone cutting me off on the road, or, someone just giving me a dirty look in a gas station or something, it's like, I have no idea what they're going through. Do I really need to take offense to that right now?
Or, people who've done terrible things and are in prison or just on the streets or whatever, we have no idea what they've gone through.
Right.
And for us to be like judging them and be like, ha, they're getting what they deserve, like that malevolent vibe is just, it's kind of repulsive in a way.
I just keep remembering the boomerang. And if I am looking at somebody on the street and thinking, what a loser, that was me just throwing a boomerang, and I'm going to get it.
Well, and that is my favorite way to think about karma, is the energy I'm putting out into the world gets reflected back at me. So if I'm putting out that energy, it's like, look out, Yeah. So just if I'm benevolent towards myself, I'm not going to put out malevolent energy towards others because I know better. So a lot of it is just a knowing. And the intellect can help lead us towards benevolence.
Yeah. Because we can make that choice.
Intellectually, it kind of makes sense. And it's kind of exciting and adventurous. Because the question is, if I can really plug in to this philosophy of benevolence, how will my life change? And I'm working on it, so I'm not sure, but it's kind of an exciting way to look at the future. If I can transform my mind, how will my life transform for the better? I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
And so it's fun. And I would just like to suggest perhaps a practice that we can all use to work on finding more benevolence. If you're interested in that concept, if you're interested in developing the philosophy of benevolence, a practice is you can think about one or two people who you really feel malevolent towards. And they can be, people you know, or people from the media, or people from Facebook, or politicians perhaps, or just whoever really gets under your skin and you feel like you have a lot of malevolent angst that you point at this person. Really examine that and try on the belief of benevolence of, I really hope this person can change their ways and can reduce the amount of karma they're creating for themselves, or can see the light and become benevolent themselves. I really wish that these people can evolve. I wish all people can evolve. So, of course, we're going to wish that on everyone. And it's really, it's kind of a fun practice. It's challenging. I know a lot of people will not like it, but
challenges are meant to be entertaining and growth oriented, in my opinion.
And they're not for everybody. It's kind of like lifting weights for the mind. It's like lifting weights for the body. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But for those who are curious and see life as an adventure and see life as something that can shift for the better, I suggest giving it a shot.
Yeah. And if that is interesting to you, we did create a peace reset toolkit with 7 skills, and benevolence is one of them. So if you're curious what the other 6 are, go ahead to mindflowradio.life and download our little ebook, join our mailing list, and become part of the Mindflow Radio tribe.
Yeah, and it's free.
Be well, y'all.
Peace and love.